Your code runs perfectly in development, then it hits production and the database goes down for 30 seconds, or the network times out, or a user sends input you did not expect. In every one of those cases, your program has to make a choice, deal with it gracefully, or crash and take the user down with it. Try-catch blocks are how you make that choice deliberately instead of letting the runtime make it for you. In this video, we are going to build a complete mental model of how exceptions work, how they propagate, and how to handle them in a way that makes your system resilient rather than fragile. Let us start with the most direct question: what actually happens when you do not handle an error? Imagine a function that connects to a database and runs a query. In development, everything works, but in production the database is temporarily unavailable. The function throws a connection error, nothing catches it, the error bubbles all the way up to the top of your program. The runtime has no handler, the process terminates. Your user sees a 500 error with no explanation. Any data they were writing may be partially committed or lost entirely. There is no retry, no fallback, no message telling them to try again. That is the cost of unhandled exceptions. The worst possible outcome becomes the default. When an exception is raised, Python does not just stop in place, it walks up the call stack looking for a handler. Think of the stack as a tower of function calls. At the bottom is your main entry point, above it is your request handler. Above that is your data fetching layer. At the very top is the function that actually threw the exception. The runtime starts at the top and moves downward through every frame looking for a matching except block. If it finds one, it runs it and continues from there. If it reaches the bottom without finding anything, the program terminates. This propagation is intentional. It means you can handle errors at whatever layer makes sense for your application, not necessarily where the error was raised. A try block has 4 optional parts and each one has a specific job. The try section is where you put only the code that might fail. Keep it narrow. If you wrap 50 lines in a single try, you will not know which line actually caused the problem. The except section catches a specific exception type. You can have multiple except clauses for different error types. The else section runs only if no exception was raised. This is where you put your success path, keeping it clearly separate from your error path. And the finally section always runs regardless of whether an exception occurred. Use it to release resources, close files, return database connections to the pool, release locks. Finally is your guarantee that cleanup happens no matter what. Not all exceptions are the same kind of thing. In statically typed languages like Java and C#, the compiler distinguishes between checked exceptions, which you are required to handle or declare, and unchecked exceptions, which the compiler does not enforce. IO exception and SQL exception are checked. If you call code that throws them, you must acknowledge that possibility. Null pointer exception and index out of bounds exception are unchecked. They represent programming errors rather than expected conditions. In Python and JavaScript, everything is unchecked, which gives you more freedom but also more responsibility. The underlying principle is the same in every language. Separate errors that represent recoverable external conditions from errors that represent bugs in your own code. There are 3 anti-patterns that show up constantly in production codebases and cause enormous amounts of debugging pain. The first is swallowing exceptions silently with a bare accept and pass. The error disappears completely. You have no idea anything went wrong, and the bug becomes nearly impossible to trace later. The second is catching too broadly. If you wrap multiple operations in one try block and catch exception, you cannot tell which operation failed or why. Always narrow both the try block and the exception type. The third is losing the original error when you re-raise. If you raise a new exception without chaining it to the original, the traceback that explains what actually went wrong is gone forever. Always use raise new exception from original error to preserve the chain. Once you know what not to do, the good patterns follow naturally. Catch specific exception types so you know exactly what you are handling. Log the exception with excinfo equals true so the full traceback ends up in your logs. Then decide, can you recover from this? If you have a cached result, return it. If you can retry with backoff, try again. If neither is possible, re-raise a higher level exception that makes sense to your caller while preserving the original as the cause. Always use finally to release resources. A connection or file handle that you opened in the try block needs to be closed whether the operation succeeded or failed. Never rely on the happy path to do your cleanup. The flow through a try except block is deterministic once you see it diagrammed. The try block executes first. If an exception is raised, execution jumps immediately to the matching except block. If no exception is raised, execution flows into the optional else block. After either the except or the else block finishes, execution always enters the finally block. From there, if the exception was not handled, it continues propagating. If it was handled, the program resumes normally after the entire try structure. Understanding this flow is what separates writing code that happens to work in the happy path from writing code that handles the real world. In production systems, exception handling is not just a language feature, It is an architectural concern. The circuit breaker pattern stops rethrowing a failing service after a threshold of consecutive failures and returns an error immediately until the service recovers, preventing one failing dependency from cascading through your entire system. Retry with exponential backoff pattern handles transient errors. Wait 1 second, then 2, then 4, up to a maximum number of attempts. The fallback value pattern returns stale cached data or a sensible default when the primary source is unavailable, giving users a degraded experience instead of a crash. And the dead letter queue pattern ensures that messages or tasks that fail repeatedly are preserved for later inspection rather than silently discarded. These are the patterns that separate a fragile system from a resilient one. Thanks for watching.